edition of Bourbon Kingdom. I'm David.
And I'm Zach.
And today we are going to review some more bourbon. We are going to go ahead and dive into the Michter's distillery, and we're going to talk about their entry-level bourbons.
Yeah, so basically, for everybody who is not aware or has the ability to get anything Michter's, because as we understand it, this is not everywhere across the country or in certain states, wherever. Sorry for your luck on that one. It does suck. Like Michter's is like one of my favorites. So it really goes between Old Forester and Michter's for me all the time. But this is a really great kind of beginner set here, honestly, to get into, just because you have such variety. So we just thought it would be important, if you can find it, kind of our thoughts on it, and realistically if you should get one or not. So today we'll start with the bourbon first, which is over here. It's a small batch. So all of these run for MSRP is like $40. Now we find a lot of it around here between like $39.99 to like around $45 if you go to the distillery. I think it's like $50, $55.
The distillery is $55. I'm not quite sure why, but you know.
Whatever. So,
yeah,
because they can, I guess.
And it's not any more special coming from the distillery.
It's not. It's all the same stuff.
If you see this at Kroger or any of your liquor stores, it's the same thing that's down at the distillery. So.
Exactly. So with some brief research, we could not find anything on the mash bill or the ages for all four of these. I imagine there's somewhere in Reddit or some deep dive on one of the many other YouTube pages that could probably break all this stuff down. We just didn't.
Yeah, I'm not deep diving onto anything.
Yeah, not today.
Yeah,
so not today. But anyways, so yeah, we'll start with the old small batch bourbon here.
Yeah.
So this is going to be 91.4 proof. And this is just real easy oak, fresh oak.
Yep. Definitely smell the oak in it.
And these are all, in my opinion, these are all really, if you're just now getting into the bourbon boom from COVID, this is just like really honestly a whole great set to have.
Yeah.
The distillery is really, just the whole distillery, everything they make there from.
I'm not sure about this one, but we'll cross that bridge when we get here.
And that's because he's not a rye guy. Or even really anything rye. But so anyways, but they're just great. And they have anything from their 10-year rye or bourbon is fantastic. They have a Michter's toasted barrel strength rye, which is the longest name I think in all of bourbon, all the way to their 20 and 25-year allocation stuff. Which if you find one of those, go ahead and go buy a lottery ticket. Even at a bar, you can't even see them. Well, if you're going to bars, but you can't even find them at bars or restaurants hardly anymore. So,
yeah, first taste off of it, it's got that little bit of sweet corn taste to it, right off
yeah,
like some
definitely.
Vanilla in there.
Yeah, it almost has like a little bit of a burnt vanilla to it, like a charry vanilla, but it's it on the nose. It gets a little bit grainy, not too bad. More of that corn kind of grain smell, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely a younger bourbon, or at least kind of comes off a little bit young.
I would guess that it's pretty young,
but still, it's really good.
Yeah, doesn't stay very long with you. It's got a decent taste to it when it hits your palate, and then as much as it's there, it's gone pretty shortly after that.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's definitely by no means. It's very short on the finish.
Yeah,
has a little bit of a fruit note on the end of it.
Yeah, you definitely.
But yeah, it's definitely. It's definitely not bad though. I really like that burnt vanilla I get on it right now. But yeah, it coats well a little bit. It's just a really good kind of beginner bourbon.
Yeah.
So
it's one that I have at my house for people who are like, give me a good bourbon to drink. Mm-hmm. And I'll go, okay, here you go.
Well, in something else too to talk about with these four bottles, they're in the price range too, where they're really good mixers. So you're really not gonna break the bank. And spoiler alert, I think this is a fantastic bottle to mix with whenever you're doing any kind of cocktail that you're wanting to rye with. But they're just overall, they're just really good to have on your cart or on your shelf at home.
I agree with that.
So
I do. I agree with that.
All right, you want to move over to the whiskey?
Let's do it.
All right,
let's move on.
So the American whiskey, I think it's coming in about 80. I think it's 83.4 proof, if I am correct here. Yes, I am.
Yeah, the rest of these are low proof. What I would definitely consider low proof.
Yeah, so the bourbon, I think, is the only. Yes, the bourbon's going to be the only one in the 90 or above.
Yeah.
The rest of these are going to be, I think, in the mid to low 80s.
Yeah, it's got it's got a little sweetness to there. It smells a lot like some caramel to it, or caramel, however you want to say it.
I think it depends on which side of the state you're from.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, the corn really kind of pops on this one, which I really like.
I taste a little bit of, and I don't know if it does or not, but it feels like it's got a little bit of toastedness to it, like it was maybe in a toasted barrel for a little bit of time. I don't know if that's the fact or not, but there's a little toasted edge to it that I feel like.
Yeah, it has a little bit of like a char-ish to it with this. There's also it also gets really kind of sweet, not to like a bland point, but like it's a very delicate sweet to it. Like it's hard to describe. It's
definitely not as sweet as this.
No, it's not. It's more like it's like a very mellow vanilla sweet to it. Like it's not rich. It's not rich in any way, shape, or form with it.
Yeah.
So, but towards the back of it though, I think you still get some of the similar. You get some similar notes on the bourbon in the whiskey, in my opinion, on the finish side of it, where there's maybe some fruit that's on the back side of it.
Yeah. And again, it's not a long finish. Like I think this finish is even shorter than the small batch finish. Like I feel like it's gone almost as soon as you swallow it. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I actually think though. So comparing these two, since they're honestly pretty similar. I mean, obviously you're comparing a whiskey and a bourbon, all that. I think the bourbon is overall a lot better. But I do like the American whiskey finish on that more than the bourbon itself.
And I actually like the whiskey with ice. I think it opens it up in a different way.
Yeah,
that makes it taste better than it does neat.
Sure.
For whatever reason, I just think it opens up some tasting notes in there that kind of give it a little more complexity than just drinking it straight.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion.
I get it.
Yep.
All right, you ready to move on to the rye?
No.
I've been waiting for this all day because he dreads it. So he doesn't understand how good ryes can truly be. So, and this is a great. I've told a lot of friends.
Count me as rye ignorant.
Yeah, we'll say you're ignorant, all right. Yeah. But for
just kidding.
I definitely I'm a big fan of this rye. I think it's a great beginner rye. It's 84.8 proof. This is fantastic right now.
Ignore that. We're just going to keep going.
Yeah, just absolutely keep going at this point. This is fantastic. So, anyways,
comic relief. It's all good.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So right here on the nose, to me, I get a lot of orange, like an orange peel and orange zest. With it, you do get some traditional rye notes at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very soft in its approach. It's not very strong.
Yeah, this doesn't smell like a typical rye
Mm-mm.
that I smell.
No, not at all. It's good.
I definitely get the orangey taste to it.
Yeah.
Not much spice to it like I'm used to having with a rye.
Yeah. Not at
So
all.
I mean that's a welcome difference than what I
Yeah.
normally because I feel like I'm normally punched in the face with rye, and I think that's why I haven't liked it. But I also tried them when I was just really getting into bourbon and drink and
Sure.
and just really getting into it, and so you have a tendency to shy away from the heat when you're first starting.
Yeah, like you get a little bit of that rye spice, like just enough to know it's a rye, but in my opinion, it's not a traditional. I mean, this is not a traditional rye. Like this is
Yep.
like this isn't something, like if you're looking for a real, like, Willet rye or family estate rye, something like that. Like that's like more of a traditional kind of rye that you're looking for.
It's not in my world.
That's not what he's buying. This is something if you're starting to get into ryes, or if you're wanting a really good cocktail mixer rye. I think this is really good. I think they've done a really good job with this.
At the end of the day, there's enough spice in that to let you know it's a rye, but not so much spice that if you don't like rye,
yeah,
I could drink this. I don't know that I will, but I could.
Yeah, and you also get some nice notes on the finish. You get some butterscotch, and you get a little bit of that vanilla / like rye spice, a little bit. But it's just a really easy, nice
it definitely
sipper.
It keeps your mouth, it like makes your mouth dry for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, that was fine. It wasn't.
You think you're gonna live?
I might live.
Well,
I don't know. We'll see.
We saved your favorite for last, so.
Yeah, this
spoiler alert. This is his favorite. So the last one we're going to do today is the Sour Mash. That's coming in at 86 proof. And basically, when people have asked before, at least around here, I have a couple friends who ask us about Sour Mash. I always tell them this is the one you go to. Because at least for around here in the Louisville, Kentucky, Southern Indiana area, this is something you can actually find. Some of the other ones that obviously like the more allocated stuff, like, that you just can't find anywhere else. But this one, and again, I understand people who aren't local who can't find this stuff. I understand that, and I can appreciate that.
We're sorry.
We are sorry. Trust me. There's stuff you'll be shocked and surprised. There are stuff that you all can find that for us being around here we can't find. But anyway, so yeah, the Sour Mash, it's basically really, I think, the best beginner Sour Mash too to kind of get into.
And 3 out of the 4 of these are pretty, to me, readily available. The one that and maybe it's because I don't look for it. I don't see the rye as much as I see the other ones, but maybe it's because I have a blind spot and I don't like to look for it. But these seem to be ones that around here, most every store that we would walk into would most likely have most of these on the shelf at any given time.
It's because he has a blind spot. This is the one that I typically can't find more than these 3.
See, look, that's the way it goes.
I
got a blind spot.
Yeah, he has a blind spot. So
if it says rye, I just walk on by.
Yeah, no kidding. So anyways, what I find really interesting after I just got done smelling and tasting the rye is I'm getting more earthy notes from this Sour Mash than when I do a rye, which is kind of funky and weird. Which is also, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, knowing that this is your favorite one and you don't like rye, I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, you're getting what would traditionally be kind of rye notes.
I don't know. I think I like the sweetness on the front end of this, and maybe it's the caramel in it. I'm not sure, but just the sweetness off the top of it kind of does it for me.
Yeah, there's a really good honey note, I think, on this that I really like. It's kind of like in the middle, going towards the back end of it, but it is good though.
Of all of these, this one has the longest finish. To me, this one I feel like stays that, and it's probably the spice at the back end of it. Kind of stays with you a little bit longer.
Yeah, so there's some dark fruit notes on the back end of this that are really good, and there's some spice / pepper.
Yeah,
I think on the back end of that stays. I think that pepper helps to kind of help it linger around a little bit.
Yeah,
but yeah, definitely. I would definitely say with that. I think a little bit more on the palate. You obviously have like that vanilla to it as well. I think you get vanilla kind of prevalent on all four of these to an extent. Maybe not as much on the rye. Not so much on the rye, I'm sorry, but at least on the first two.
Yeah.
In the sour mash. But yeah, they're overall, all four of them, they're good. If you haven't tried them, highly recommend, if you can have an opportunity to try them. But Dave, so if you had to put these in order, which order how would you rank them?
I would go 1. Surprisingly, I'm actually going to say 2.
Wow, really?
3, 4. Because to me, the whiskey is almost strictly a mixing bourbon to me.
Wow.
If I was to mix any of these, I would mix the whiskey over any of them. The rest of these, I actually might have to get this one in my collection. I don't have it right now.
It's a good mixing one.
It is, and I might enjoy it to mix too. I'm not really mixed ryes with. Mm-hmm. I'm not been a rye mixer, so I'm not sure what the mix feels like with that. But to me, sour mash all day long.
Sure.
And the first time I tried this was like 2 weeks ago, so this is not like a long. Before I would have said the small batch was my favorite, but now having sampled all 4 of them, the sour mash, the rye, and so on. So
yeah. So for me, I would definitely go. Now I kind of have a caveat here on the end of all of this. So I would definitely go bourbon 1, then rye 2, sour mash 3, whiskey 4 for me. But if I had to only have one of these, I would take the rye all day long over the bourbon. The reason is, I think it's a better cocktail mixer. So if you're into cocktails or whatever, I think it's better to have that on your shelf.
Yeah.
And then also, I think with the rye, I think this is such a good, solid beginner rye that I think you should keep a bottle of it. If you're somebody like me, I like to keep a bottle of this around to let other people try it, to get introduced to a little bit, something that's rye, that's not a higher proof, or something that's not going to sit there and crush on somebody because, rye is just a different thing.
Yeah.
So, and not everybody, I think a lot of people get into bourbon, right in the beginning, and everybody really likes and enjoys bourbon, but then they try rye right off the bat, aka him, and then are not a fans. It just takes a while for rye. It's something, I think everybody's palate develops a little differently.
Yeah.
And, it's something different. And I think kind of once you're kind of used to it and you're used to a couple of the notes, I think I just think it's really, really good. So, and I'm also sitting here, I'm sitting here thinking too, a couple weeks ago, I had its oldest brother. I'm totally going to brag about this for a second. During my vacation, I had an opportunity to try Michter's 25 rye.
Ooh.
And I'm going to tell you right now, unicorn tears, that's what everybody says whenever you have something like that. It was by far and will probably always be the greatest rye I ever had in my life. So it was something at a bottle share I got to try, and it was beautiful.
And their upper tier bourbons are fantastic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We may or may not review those at some point, but they are good. If you can get your hands on them, you should get your hands on them. Just like all these are great to share with people. That's just kind of the nature of it. It's great to share with people, great to introduce people to different bourbons and whiskeys and all that stuff. And so
definitely,
if you can get them, which you can, you should have them in your collection.
Agree.
Yeah. All right. So till next time.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment on the channel, share with your friends.
Go to our YouTube channel, Bourbon Kingdom.
Anybody, everybody.
Any way you can connect with us, we love to connect with you. We love to interact in some ways. You can tell us we're crazy about our bourbon ideas, or you can tell us that you liked our ideas. Whatever it is, we welcome all feedback.
Yeah.
But until next time, we'll see you.